Take a look at the prescription bottle on your kitchen counter. Maybe it's for your heart, your blood sugar, or just to keep the aches at bay. It looks simple, doesn't it? But that small plastic bottle is a miracle of global logistics. The raw ingredients likely came from India. The chemical precursors from China were refined in Europe and packaged in the US. That single pill traveled more miles to reach your hand than most of us have traveled in our entire lives. We have spent the last 50 years outsourcing our survival to strangers. We pay strangers to purify our water, strangers to grow our wheat, and strangers to keep the power grid humming. We have lived good, comfortable lives because of this complex web. But in a year of shortages, a slow collapse scenario, that web doesn't snap all at once. It frays. Many in our community believe that owning a firearm is the ultimate insurance policy. They think safety is about keeping bad people out. But for those of us living in single-story homes in the suburbs with limited mobility and fixed incomes, the real danger is already inside. It's the calorie deficit that hits when the pension check can't keep up with inflation. It's the cold that seeps into your bones when the grid fails and you can't chop wood like you used to. It's the realization that you can't eat a bullet and you can't shoot a virus. History shows us that during the Great Depression or the siege of Sarajevo, the people who thrived weren't the ones with the most ammo. They were the ones who knew how to fix a leaking roof without buying new shingles. They were the ones who could turn a backyard weed into a painkiller. So put the tactical fantasies aside. Let's talk about the 7 skills that bridge the gap when the world stops delivering solutions to your doorstep and you have to create them yourself. Before we get into the skills, I have a question for the realists watching this. If the pharmacies closed tomorrow and you could not travel to another town, what is the one item in your medicine cabinet that you would miss the most? Is it antibiotics, insulin, painkillers? Leave a comment below. Let's see what our community is really most vulnerable to, so we can prioritize our preparation. Field medical skills and hygiene. The silent killer. Defense. In a slow collapse, the enemy isn't kicking down your door, it is microscopic. For those of us with thinning skin and slower healing rates, a simple slip in the garden or a cut while opening a can is no longer an inconvenience, it is a life-threatening event. When the grid fails, the flushing toilet becomes a memory. Do not try to force it with buckets of pool water. Your back cannot handle that weight daily. Instead, implement the twin bucket system. Use one bucket for liquids and another for solids. Here is the secret that keeps disease away. Mixing urine and feces creates raw sewage and the smell of death. Separating them creates manageable compost. Cover the solids with sawdust or shredded paper, and you effectively pause the biological clock of disease in your own home. Next, look at your medicine cabinet. When the antibiotic ointment runs dry, do not panic. Look to your pantry. Medical-grade honey or even simple granulated sugar was used in the Civil War for a reason. Bacteria cannot survive in sugar. It essentially dehydrates them to death upon contact. Packing a deep wound with sugar and wrapping it tight can save a limb when there is no doctor to call. Finally, we must talk about chronic conditions. If you rely on painkillers for arthritis, stocking up is good, but knowledge is better. The white willow tree growing near many suburban creeks contains salicin, the chemical ancestor of aspirin. We aren't trying to perform surgery on the kitchen table. We are trying to survive the golden hour that stretches into weeks. It's about keeping the wound clean, the waste contained, and the pain manageable until society catches its breath. Water and energy management skills. The flow of life. Let's have a frank conversation about physics and biology. Water weighs 8.3 pounds per gallon. That might not sound like much, but in a grid-down scenario, the standard advice to go find water is a recipe for injury. For those of us with bad backs or arthritis, carrying 2 buckets from a creek a mile away isn't survival. It's a quick way to destroy your spine and burn more calories than you can afford to lose. The strategy here isn't muscle, it is gravity. Your greatest asset is the roof over your head. It is a massive catchment surface that most people ignore. In a typical suburban rainstorm, just 1 inch of rain falling on a modest 1,000 square foot roof generates over 600 gallons of water. Think about that. That is enough to keep an elderly couple hydrated and hygienic for months, delivered right to your downspout without you lifting a finger. You don't need expensive cisterns. You just need to divert that downspout into clean plastic trash cans lined with heavy-duty bags today before the taps run dry. However, collection is only half the battle. In the suburbs, the water looks clear, but it carries invisible dangers from your neighbor's manicured lawns. Most people think boiling is the ultimate solution. It is not. While boiling kills bacteria, it actually concentrates heavy metals and chemical pesticides as the steam evaporates, making the remaining water more toxic. In a neighborhood full of fertilizer, runoff and asphalt chemicals boiling can turn a glass of water into a chemical cocktail. You need a quality gravity-fed filter, like a Berkey, or learn to build a bio-sand filter using layers of gravel and sand to scrub these toxins out physically. Now let's talk about energy. Forget about powering the refrigerator or the TV. Those are luxuries of the past. The goal of energy in a collapse is to prevent the most common injury for seniors falling in the dark. A broken hip in a hospital-free world is often a fatal diagnosis. Do not rely on candles. They are a fire hazard when the fire department isn't coming. Look at your garden. Those cheap solar landscape lights staking your walkway are actually detachable, rechargeable lanterns. They charge passively all day. Bring them inside at dusk. They provide just enough light to navigate your hallway to the bathroom. Safely, they cost nothing to recharge, and they will never burn your house down. This isn't about lighting up a room, it's about navigating your world safely when the lights go out for good. Repair and fabrication skills. The MacGyver mindset. For decades we have lived in a disposable society. If the toaster breaks, we buy a new one. If the roof leaks, we call a contractor. But in a year of shortages, Amazon isn't coming, and the handyman is busy saving his own family. Your home is your lifeboat, but without maintenance, a lifeboat eventually sinks. You don't need to be a master carpenter, but you do need to look at your garbage differently. Let's talk about temperature, the biggest threat to older adults. When the furnace dies, drafty windows and doors become lethal. You cannot simply tough out the cold like you did in your 20s. Do not throw away your junk mail or old newspapers. Soaking paper waste in water and compressing it into bricks creates a slow-burning fuel source that costs nothing and can keep a small room warm when firewood runs out. But what about fixing broken essential items? Duct tape and zip ties will eventually run out. You need a fastener that lasts forever and is sitting in your recycling bin right now. Take a standard plastic soda bottle. By cutting it spirally into a thin strip, you create an incredibly strong plastic rope. Here is the part that changes everything. When you wrap this plastic strip around a broken chair leg or a tool handle and apply heat, it shrinks and hardens like steel, creating a joint stronger than the original wood. Finally, change how you view your car. If gasoline is gone, that vehicle in your driveway is no longer transportation. It is a 4,000-pound hardware store. It contains wires for tying mirrors, for signaling foam for insulation, and a battery that can spark a fire. In a slow collapse, the person who can look at a pile of trash and see a solution is the one who stays comfortable while others panic. Food preservation skills, the hunger gap. Let's talk about the appliance we trust the most and understand the least, the refrigerator. In a slow collapse, your freezer is not a vault, it is a ticking time bomb. Once the power dies, you have roughly 48 hours before your expensive meats and frozen vegetables turn into a biological hazard. You cannot eat 3 months' worth of food in 2 days, and as we age, our digestion simply cannot handle spoiled food like a younger person's might. Gardening is a wonderful hobby, but it takes months to yield results. The hunger gap is that dangerous window between when the grocery store shelves go empty and your first tomato ripens. To bridge this gap, we must look backward to the methods used by our grandparents. Many of you are afraid of pressure canning, fearing the pot might explode. I understand that fear. However, the modern pressure canner is one of the safest tools invented. It is the only way to kill botulism, a bacteria that is terrifying because it has absolutely no smell, no taste, and cannot be seen. Yet a microscopic amount can be fatal. Learning to can means you can turn that freezer full of thawing chicken into shelf-stable jars that will last for years without a single watt of electricity. But here is a secret that surprises almost everyone, even experienced preppers. Protein is the hardest thing to come by when the trucks stop. You probably have eggs in your fridge right now. Did you know that fresh, unwashed raw eggs can be stored in a bucket of water mixed with pickling lime slaked lime at room temperature for up to 2 years, and they will taste as fresh as the day they were laid? No refrigeration, no boiling. This technique, called water glassing, allows you to keep a critical source of soft, easy-to-digest protein under your bed or in a closet, ready for when you need strength the most. Don't let your food security depend on a power cord. Start small. Preserve what you already have before you worry about growing what you don't. Gray man skills and situational awareness. The art of being invisible. Now that you have secured water, food, and medicine, you face a new paradoxical danger: your success. In a neighborhood where people are hungry, cold, and scared, being the only house with a humming generator and the smell of hot soup doesn't make you a leader, it makes you a target. The concept of the gray man is often misunderstood as looking like a spy. For us, it simply means blending into the baseline of our street. If the power has been out for 3 weeks and your neighbors are wearing dirty clothes and losing weight, you cannot walk out to your mailbox looking freshly showered, clean-shaven, and healthy. It sounds harsh, but appearing too healthy or too clean in a crisis triggers a primal suspicion in desperate people. You must mirror the struggle of those around you, even if you are comfortable inside. Your home must also play the part. Do not board up windows with fresh plywood. That screams, "I have things worth protecting." Instead, keep your blinds drawn. Use blackout curtains or heavy blankets over your windows at night. A single candle flickering in a window can be seen from blocks away in a blackout, signaling that you have resources. But the most dangerous signal isn't what people see. It is what they smell. We love our comfort foods, but you must change how you cook. The aroma of frying meat or spices can travel over a mile in a quiet, windless neighborhood, piercing through walls and signaling a feast to starving people you didn't even know were there. Switch to boiling foods which produce less odor and cook at odd hours like 3 a.m. when the neighborhood is asleep. Finally, use your age as an asset for situational awareness. You know this street better than anyone. You know which dog barks at the mailman and which car belongs in which driveway. Sit on your porch with a cup of tea hidden in a nondescript mug. You aren't patrolling, you are just a senior watching the world go by. Watch for the anomalies: a car driving by, twice a stranger, lingering too long. Trust that gut feeling you've honed over decades. If something feels wrong, go inside, lock the door, and stay silent. Being invisible is the best armor you can wear. 6. Negotiation and communication skills. The new economy. We need to redefine what wealth means. In a slow collapse, the digits in your bank account are just pixels and paper money is just kindling. When the supply trucks stop, the neighborhood economy shifts instantly from dollars to desires. Many people hoard gold and silver. While precious metals have their place, you cannot eat gold and you cannot smoke silver. As a senior, your most valuable trade items are the small, cheap comforts that stressed-out neighbors are desperate for. Think about vices: alcohol, chocolate, and tobacco. But the king of the new economy is something you likely have in your pantry right now. Coffee. Here is a staggering fact that creates leverage. Over 85% of adults in the U.S. are chemically dependent on caffeine, and withdrawal symptoms, like blinding headaches and lethargy, kick in within just 24 hours of their last cup. A cheap jar of instant coffee is not just a drink, it is a cure for a physical withdrawal that will cripple your neighbors. It is worth more than ammunition. However, trading is dangerous. If you are known as the store, you become a target. You must master the poverty bluff. Never say, "I have a stockpile of batteries." Instead say, "I was cleaning out the junk drawer and found a few extra batteries. I can spare 2. Always appear as though you are giving up your last spare item to help a friend. This builds gratitude, not envy. Finally, remember your physical limitations. Do not trade for stuff. You have enough stuff. Trade for labor. You cannot chop a cord of wood or dig a latrine without risking a heart attack or a slipped disc. But that young neighbor down the street, he has strong back muscles, but he is out of cigarettes. That is your trade. You provide the morale, he provides the muscle. That is how you survive without lifting a finger. 7. Resilience and leadership skills. The ultimate weapon. We have filled the pantry, filtered the water, and secured the windows, but there is one final supply that runs out much faster than batteries hope. In a slow collapse, the days blur together. The television offers only static, the phone doesn't ring, and the silence in a suburban home can become deafening. This is where the battle is truly won or lost. You might think your age makes you a burden in a crisis because you cannot carry a heavy pack. You are wrong. In a world of chaos, young people panic because they have never seen a system fail. You have. You remember the gas lines of the 70s, the Cold War fears or personal tragedies that felt like the end of the world. Your calmness is the most valuable resource your family has, but you must guard your mind. There is a very real danger that kills more people in isolation than starvation. There is a medically documented condition called psychogenic death, where a physically healthy person simply loses the will to live and their heart actually stops beating within 3 days of giving up. It is not a metaphor, it is a physiological shutdown caused by despair. To fight this, you must become the commander of routine. When the grid is down, you do not sit in your pajamas all day waiting for the lights to come back on. You get up, you shave or brush your hair. You set the table for dinner even if it is just canned beans. You are not the soldier guarding the perimeter, you are the librarian of sanity. Your job is to keep the old stories alive, to teach the grandchildren card games, and to remind everyone that this too shall pass. When fear rises in the dark, they will not look at the guy with the biggest gun. They will look at the person with the calmest hands. That is you. Survival isn't a shopping list you complete on Amazon. It is a mindset you build every day. The 7 skills we discussed, from curing meat to curing despair, weigh nothing, cost nothing to carry, and can never be stolen from you. In a slow collapse, the world shrinks down to the size of your neighborhood. The heroes won't be the ones with the most ammunition. They will be the ones who can fix a leak, calm a child, and share a cup of coffee when the shelves are empty. Your age isn't a liability. It is your library. You have lived through hard times before. You possess the patience that the younger generation lacks. Use it. Do not look at your hands and see weakness because they tremble. Look at them and see the tools that built a life and the tools that will preserve it. The systems around us may be fragile, but the human spirit, especially your spirit, is built to last. Stay safe, stay hidden, and most importantly, stay useful. Now I have a small challenge for you. We often underestimate what we already know. In the comments below, I want you to share one skill you possessed in your youth, whether it was canning peaches with your mother, fixing radios, or sewing clothes, that you think would be most valuable today. Let's build a library of forgotten wisdom right here in the comment section. And if you found value in this quiet approach to survival, please share this with a friend who needs to hear it.